There's three feature elements that support working with custom actions. There's custom action, hide custom action, and custom action group. Of these, custom action is the most commonly used. However, the ability to hide existing actions with hide custom action is important, because you can hide an existing item and replace it with a new item in the same position. For example, the publishing infrastructure uses this technique to replace the top link bar and quick launch menu links on the site settings page with the single navigation settings link. So again, custom actions, they will give you declarative control over the ribbon, site actions menu, and site settings page. And this is important that it's declarative because it's part of the feature element, and so we can deploy this declaratively just using a regular sandbox solution. We don't have to use a full-blown farm solution for that. And the feature elements are, like I was just saying, custom action, which will add an action to a location, and hide custom action, again, hiding an action at a location, like the example I just said, where publishing infrastructure will replace the top link bar link and the quick launch menu link with the single navigation settings link. And custom action group will allow you to declare a grouping of actions together, give those a title. And then the basic custom action attributes, there's really two types of custom actions, those that apply to the ribbon and then those that don't. So custom actions that don't involve the ribbon are typically pretty simple and require the use of only a few core attributes. And these attributes are title, which will set the menu text of the action, and then description, which is just a subtitle, or it shows up when you hover over it as a tooltip. And location, the action's location in the UI, so the site settings page, or it could be the a list item menu. A group ID, which is the group for locations with multiple groups. Sequence is the position in location by sequential sort. So if there are other items, say for example in site settings, you can control the sequence number in which your custom action will appear. And so the higher the number, the lower your custom action will show up. And then rights. So rights allows you to control who gets to see your custom action. So it's security trimming, and you can pass in SP-based permissions values, comma separated. So for example, if you have something like let's say maybe you have an application page that only administrators should be able to use to do some type of administrative action on your site. Maybe you create a site actions menu item and a site actions custom action. Maybe you only want site collections administrators to see that. Well, using the rights attribute, you can actually specify that. Or maybe you just want site owners to see it. So that's where you can do it declaratively, which is nice. So the common non-ribbon locations, site settings, so that's the site settings page. And then the standard menu, which includes many menus, including site actions, the list item menu, and there's more. And then list edit. So this is the list set, not list item edit, but list edit. So the list settings page, where you would actually go change this settings on your list. You can add custom actions there. There's more. You can look in the SDK. These are the main ones that you're going to encounter. So the UrlAction element, it specifies a custom actions behavior, and as name indicates, clicking custom action invokes a URL. And the UrlAction supports two relative tokens. The tilde site, which will go to your site that you're currently on, the current site, and then tilde site collection, that will go to the root web of your site collection. And then also you can use JavaScript, and you can have code that will execute. And you can also, this is interesting, you can also pass in tokens. So like right here, this JavaScript alert is on a list item, so we get the list ID token and the item ID token. And those tokens In this sample right here, they acquire the context of the current operation. So if you're hovering over a list item and you want to invoke actions on it, well, the SharePoint UI is going to pass in the list ID and the item ID. It'll also pass in the item URL, list ID, and site URL. Those are the supported tokens. So what we're going to do now is we're going to create our own custom action. We're going to add a link to the Site Actions menu. Yeah, we're back to our Visual Studio solution, and I'm going to go ahead and use the navigation project, the sandbox project that we were using before, and I'm going to add an empty element to it. So I'll add a new item. I'll scroll down to empty element, and I'm going to call it Custom Actions, because that's what we're going to add. Okay, and now what I need to do is start entering in my custom action element. So the title, we'll just make it say hello, and description, so title is what you'll see in the menu. Description is if you hover over it. Let's say run some JavaScript, and location, this is important. This tells it what type of menu it is. So in this case, and it's case sensitive, Microsoft.SharePoint.standard menu. Make sure I spell that correctly. Okay, that looks good. And this is important. Also, group ID is very important, because this tells it where to show up. So we want it to show up in Site Actions. So it's a standard menu in the Site Actions group. And the rights, who's allowed to see this? So we'll say approve items. So only people who have approved items permissions are allowed to see this custom action. SharePoint will security term that for us. So now we have that defined. Now we need to define the URL action and set the URL. So the URL we're going to set using JavaScript. And I'm going to just do an alert. And I'll just say hello from, and I'll pass in the site URL using the token. Save that off. And it's just included in this feature here, which is scoped at the web, so that's fine. I'll go ahead and deploy this, and it will activate that feature. And we'll come back to our site and go to the Site Actions menu. And here's our custom action right here. If I click on this, it's going to execute the JavaScript, and there it is. And you can see it replaced the token that we passed in the site URL with the actual URL of our site, the current site. So let's change this again. Let's close out of here, and this time let's make it be list edit, and the group ID will say general settings. And so we'll deploy this again. Okay, so now go back to the site, Notice how it's not showing up in site actions anymore. So we need to go to the settings page of any list. So let's go to site contents, and I'll just go to I'll go to site pages, and I'll go to the settings page, and you can see it showing up right here, and you can even see the description showing up as a tooltip right there. So when I click here, it's just executing the same thing. So you can see it's pretty easy to deploy these custom actions, and the main thing is just knowing what group to put them in and what type of menu. But they're actually quite useful. They're also used quite a bit. SharePoint uses them all the time. It's a great way to integrate your things that you've created, like pages, or application pages, publishing pages, or any type of custom actions that you've created on list items. It's a great way to incorporate it into the architecture of SharePoint. You're blending in with the architecture. You're using the hooks that SharePoint provides, and that gives the users a good experience. So most custom actions that you create support only specific types of content, and you only want the action to display for that content. And the custom action element has two attributes you can use to specify the applicable content. The registration type attribute allows 4 values. Has list, content type, file type, and prog ID, which is basically like document type, like Word.document. And the registration ID attribute allows you to specify a value based on the registration type. For example, a list template ID or a content type ID. So you have to use it with registration type. So for example, if you specify a content type for registration type, then you can actually specify the specific content type ID. So that maybe you've created a new content type and you want a custom action that you've created just for that content type. That's how you would do it. So what we're going to do right now is take a quick look at using the registration type attribute. Okay, at the end of the previous demo, in the code that we're looking at now, we made the custom action available on the site setting page of every list and library, which probably isn't what you want to do. So what we're going to do is narrow the scope down a little bit and make it focus. So we're going to use the registration type attribute and the registration ID, and we're going to display the link only on the list settings page for document libraries. So I'm going to go ahead and add in registration type, the registration type attribute. If I can spell it right. Okay, registration type equals list, and registration ID so registration type is for list, and document library is a list, and the registration ID 101, that's the list template ID. So a document library has a list template ID of 101. So we're going to deploy this again, and it'll retract the old solution. Now it just deployed it, activated the feature. So if we go back to the site, let's just double check, make sure it's not in site actions anymore. It's not here. And then let's also go to the site contents and go to site pages, because that's where we saw it before. So if we go to library settings, it was showing up here under the general settings. It's no longer here, so that's good. So now let's go to our documents, the documents document library, and we'll go to the settings, and note that it is showing up here now only for document libraries. So when I click here, you can see it's showing up, executing the JavaScript. So that's one way of narrowing the focus down to have it just be focused on one particular type of list. You could also focus it down at the content type level. So maybe if you're creating a new content type and you want an action specified, create an action just for that new content type, then that's how you would do it as well.